Hello and welcome to the Product Marketing Festival. We have some fantastic sessions on the agenda for you today, but before we jump in, I have a very exciting announcement to make. The Product Marketing Awards are back for 2022 and I'm delighted to announce that nominations are now open. We received a whopping 181 New Yeek nominations last year, and this year we want even more PMM pioneers to be recognised. We have 7 top-notch categories for you to get involved in, and we can't wait to shout about the incredible product marketing talent within our community. The categories are Product Marketing Leader of the Year, Product Marketing Team of the Year, Product Marketing MVP of the Year, Product Marketing Newcomer of the Year, Positioning and Messaging Maestro of the Year, Product Launch of the Year, and Top Companies to Work in Product Marketing. Nominations are now open but must close on August 19th. So what are you waiting for? Spread the word, get your nominations in and celebrate those product marketing superstars that continue to go the extra mile. We'll be sharing a link to the nomination page in the chat throughout the day, so keep a lookout for that. We're also here if you have any questions, so please feel free to reach out via Slack or email. Now, after all the excitement, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for joining us today at the festival. Please make the most of these sessions by asking your questions and sharing your feedback in the comment section of the video. So with that, let's get back to the sessions.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elliot Rayner and welcome to the Product Marketing Festival. Really happy that I can be one of the first presentations to kick you off today and to talk about all things product marketing. I really enjoy doing these product marketing events. Every time I do, I seem to learn something new about product marketing, which is shows you what an ever evolving field it is. And one of my favorite things about product marketing is that no one can seem to really agree on what it is and where its value lies. This is highlighted brilliantly by the book Misunderstood by the Product Marketing Alliance, where even in the opening chapter, it just simply talks about it's time to define and or interviews different people about what they believe through their experience, what they believe the value or the real purpose or the definition of product marketing is. And for my presentation today, I would like to share with you my definition, which has come to me through my experience working in product marketing as something that's been very helpful to me and my stakeholders in the past. And that's this definition, which is that product marketing is the story engine of the organization. And hopefully over the next 25 minutes, I'll be able to convince you of why I believe that to be true. Before I do that, it's always good to take a moment to discuss a little bit about how we look at product marketing and how we communicate it. When I have to communicate product marketing to my stakeholders, which is something I know all of us have to do a lot to talk about what we actually do and who we actually are in the organization. And this is something that's always very beneficial to me. And basically it summarizes product marketing as these 2 different worlds. One is this understanding of the marketplace, and through that understanding of the marketplace, helping to shape a product or to add value to it. And once we've shaped it, then communicating it back using that same great understanding of the market of which we represent. My feeling and my experience has shown me that both of these things are made increasingly better with great storytelling skills. And this is something that's also been highlighted by the Product Marketing Alliance. This is from the State of Marketing report last year, where over 60% of product marketers agreed that storytelling was a key skill to the product marketing function. I actually think it should be a lot higher than that. And that's what I'm hoping to convince you of today. And to convince you of that, I'm going to explore 3 different statements. Those statements are: the first is that humans think in stories. And to do that, I'll be showing you a few different experimentations and a little bit more about the science of storytelling to show you why I believe that to be true. Number two is that stories embed value. So whenever you create a product story, it adds value to the product. And we'll be looking through some different case studies and experiences from other brands that show some evidence for that. And finally, I want to finish by showing you that I believe that storytelling is a skill. It's something that anyone can learn. There are frameworks for it, and we're going to be going over a few of those frameworks together at the end of this presentation. But before we go any further, it makes sense to tell you a little bit about my story. So this grumpy little boy is me. I'm from Newcastle, the northeast of England, and in Newcastle, football or sport is a religion. I'm not really sure why, because we're not very good at it. But what it did is when I was growing up, I really realized that I really wanted to work in sports. I loved the effect that it happened, that it brought to people, how it brought people closer together, how it created incredible moments. And so I thought I would like to work in the sports industry. Fast forward 30 years, my son is following in my footsteps, but hopefully a lot happier ones with my football team than mine. My wish came true, and I was lucky enough to work for Adidas for the first 10 years of my career, coming in as a product manager. And basically what I was doing was creating all of these different sports kits, one at the World Cup, Rugby World Cup, the Olympics. And what I realized during that time is that I wasn't really creating products. I was creating stories, or our teams were creating stories. That's the reason why something created for less than a few dollars can be sold for up to €100, because people aren't buying into this cheap piece of plastic. They're buying into the story that's been embedded into it. So it was a great place to learn how to create great product stories every single year. After that, I got the chance to go into the digital world as the head of product marketing for Babbel. And this is where I saw how storytelling is so powerful within the digital world as well. You are actually 20 times more likely to be able to remember information when it's delivered to you as part of a story. So obviously for someone like Babbel who's trying to teach you a language, memorization is key. And that's why so much of Babbel's content is focused around stories. So I really got to explore how you can create great storytelling and bring it into a digital product as well. Finally, I am where I'm at today with the company Arian, which is a sports tech company. So I've got to combine my tech world and my sports world. And this is where I got to see how storytelling is so powerful within B2B. We're mainly a B2B company, and anyone who works product marketing for B2B will know how difficult it is to make something very complicated, very simple. That's what product marketing does. And I think there's no better way to do that than with effective storytelling. So getting back to those three statements, let's start the first one together by exploring why I think humans think in stories. And to do that, I'd like to bring attention to you. This is a great study that was created by Hans and Simmel back in the 1940s. And the purpose of this study was to create an animation which could be shown to an audience and then simply ask them some questions afterwards about how they felt watching it. And the animation is nothing more than a few different shapes, two triangles, a circle, moving around in certain patterns together. And the results of the experiment show that afterwards, when people watched it, they actually put a lot of emotion into it. They saw the shapes as characters with emotions and with a mission and even a purpose. And what that experiment highlighted was how something so simple that our brains love stories and can find stories even in the smallest places because our brains are hardwired for it. So this animation is part of the presentation. It's a great one to take back to your product marketing teams and to show them and to ask them the same questions to display the power that storytelling has on the human brain. I think this was summarized best by the author Yuval Noah Harari, who is the author of Sapiens and Homo Deus, who's a master of studying humans as individuals, but also together in society, who said that humans think in stories and we try to make sense of the world by telling stories. And I think that's absolutely true. Our brains are hardwired for it. We've evolved for it. And it's how we communicate with each other. So actually 62% of our communications with each other are built around narrative and story. So whenever you're having a conversation with your family, your friends, or at work, it's more often than not that you're using some kind of story structure. It's because it comes natural to us. And as product marketers, it's really important for us to know that because we're responsible for communications. And so if we can build something around a story, then obviously it's going to be a lot more effective. And to back that up, we can look deeper into some of the science of storytelling. So storytelling actually affects our brain in a number of different ways. And one of its ways is simply through chemicals. When we listen to a story, there are different points where there's a dramatic turn or getting to know a character, and our brain is strategically dropping different chemicals at different times to either make us in our fight or flight mode or to make us bond. And so if we know that, product marketers can hack the brain. So the more we understand how the brain reacts to storytelling, it's a fantastic thing for product marketers to understand. One of my favorite of these is neural coupling. You'll find there in the bottom left corner. What neural coupling basically describes is that when one person is telling the story to the other, the listener often feels and reflects the same emotions of the storyteller. And we do this all the time. If someone tells you a really embarrassing story, sometimes you'll bring your hand to your mouth because you feel that same embarrassment. Whether you're telling a scary story, you start to get scared. So we reflect each other's emotions. And that's why you see so many product marketing commercials that are based around personifying the problem. So we're actually reflecting something that we want to feel by speaking from that experience. That's why you see so many testimonials now. If we get one of our customers to give a testimonial, we can make the audience feel the same way as one of our customers. So that's a great example of how storytelling can be used by product marketers. This is another great example. It's something you've probably seen on LinkedIn before, but as I said, product marketing, one of our main responsibilities is making something extremely complicated as simple as possible. I do this all the time. We work with a biomechanical and tech company, so it's very complicated, deep science and data. And the more that product marketing can take something very complicated and make it very simple and easy to communicate, then the more better effect you're going to have with product launches, with explaining features, with sales enablement. And the best way to do that is with a story, to bring all of these complicated things together. A third final way is through speed of communication. We are bombarded with more than 100,000 digital words on average every day. So it's never been more important for product marketers to be able to communicate effectively and quick. This is a really good example of something I had to go through recently, buying a baby bed, which is something I'd never had any experience before. I had no training. I had no idea what to do. And I found thousands of different products. And then in 4 simple pictures, I thought the visual storytelling here is perfect. And the tagline was the baby bed that grows with your baby. And you can see the baby growing, you can see the toys changing, and you can see the bed going with it. And within 4 images, I understand where the value of this product is and why it is different to its competitors. So it's a great example of how visual storytelling can be used for product marketers. So let's do a quick little summary of that. So I argue that the product marketing is the story engine of the organization. And I see this, that in half of our worlds in the communication wheel, we see that all the time. So once you have a product, the best way to communicate it is through storytelling, and whether it's the speed, whether it's the effectiveness, or whether it's making the complicated simple, storytelling helps at each of those stages. But that's only one half of our world. As I said, it's not just about communication, it's about shaping the product. And that's where I believe actually storytelling is just as effective, because stories embed value. And to do that, I can show you another experiment, this time not a psychological experiment, but a sociological experiment that was done by 2 authors in New York who wanted to demonstrate the power that storytelling has on everyday products. On the screen, you can see a lot of the products on the screen from this experiment. And basically what they did is went to a thrift shop, bought 200 items for $1 or less, so basically junk. And they asked 200 authors to write very short stories about the items, and then they put them on eBay. And so each of these products was then instantly connected to a great little short story and sold. And once they were sold for over $3,000. So completely over 20 times the value for which they were bought for. And it was a great demonstration of how adding a story to a simple product can really increase its value. And I would really encourage you, you can go to significantobjects.com and read about that experiment, and you can see the effectiveness and try and guess why some stories worked more than others. And it's a great experimentation to do with the product marketing team to show the value of stories. Another great example of this is one of my favorite examples is by looking at what I believe to be one of the most unemotional objects of all time, which is batteries. It's not something that you would think is a great avenue for storytelling. And hopefully when you see these two logos on two brands, some kind of character jumps into your mind. And usually when I do this live or in front of an audience, someone shouts out a pink bunny. And that's why both of these brands use a bunny as a way to communicate their product. And there's a very deep reason for that. That actually goes back thousands of years. It's actually an original Aesop's fable that most of us have heard in our childhood about the tortoise and the rabbit. And you think of what the lesson of the tortoise and the rabbit was not about being the fastest, it's about perseverance, who can last the longest. And you can imagine why being able to convince you can last the longest is something good for a battery, because that's really the only reason we buy batteries. And so by taking that story and bonding it, it's still a fantastic weapon for both of these brands to use for their product. They use this great character and very elemental storytelling so that the next time you're in a supermarket and you can choose between 100 different types of battery, you usually go for these two. And it's the reason why both of these brands still pay millions in legal fees fighting over a very silly pink bunny. So it's a very interesting experiment in storytelling to show you how valuable it is to these brands. Another great example, which I always bring up in presentations, is that of Oatly. Oatly have been one of the success stories when it comes to marketing the last couple of years with incredible growth. And one of the reasons is for their incredible storytelling. And you can see it right here on this slide with their packaging. It's absolutely flooded from side to side with storytelling. And you can imagine that when you go to buy milk and you're bombarded with 100 different alternatives, that why this would stick out on the shelf. And this is all about using storytelling to add value in product differentiation. And packaging is a really underrated way for product marketing to take advantage of that. I feel like every time I go to the supermarket, I learn about something new that they can make milk out of that I didn't know before, and it's growing industry. And so you can imagine how Oatly has this great weapon to stay relevant and to differentiate to the thousands of other alternatives on there. And if you want to look for great examples of storytelling, Oatly is a really fantastic place to start. Looking at another example, I always get asked for digital or B2B examples, it's a little bit more difficult than consumer products. This is a great example from Slack, who took something like their app release notes, which usually tell you about some of the functional changes in the app, but use it as a way to communicate with their audience. And this is something that's become a lot more popular, is using these touch points with your consumer, whether it be through notifications or in an app or in a sales enablement program, is using that as storytelling to demonstrate value in your connection with the audience. So there's a lot of examples of how this can be utilized in a digital and B2B world as well to add value through storytelling. So that brings me to my second summary. So what I'm trying to say is that the best way to shape with product marketing is through storytelling. And we've seen some great examples of how you can add value with significant objects, about how you can stand out from the crowd, like Oatly, or how you can do it with a digital product as well. So there's so many options that when you understand your audience and you become very good at product storytelling, you can add an incredible amount of value, which is one of our responsibilities as product marketers. So that's the first two statements. I've told you how you can shape with storytelling. I've told you how you communicate with short storytelling. And that's why I believe storytelling, product marketing is the story engine of the organization. So the next question is, how do we do it? And this is why I want to finish on my final statement, which is that storytelling is a skill. All my career, a lot of people think that people are natural storytellers and it's a talent. And I believe it's just like anything we learn in product marketing. There are certifications, there are ways to learn, there are experiences, there are frameworks. You practice it and you become better at it. It's no different than market research or user personas. It's something that you can utilize. And I'm hopefully be able to show you that as I come to the end of my presentation. Just to highlight the value of storytelling and where it's going, this is a job that was posted on LinkedIn a couple of months ago and someone looking for a head of connected storytelling. And I believe we're going to see a lot more of this. I believe that storytelling is going to be a fundamental part of product marketing. You're going to start seeing it in job descriptions. And so the more that we can demonstrate our experience with it, the better. And this is something I started to explore with the Product Marketing Alliance through my podcast. With my podcast, Story Selling, I basically reached out to some of the best storytellers I've ever met during my career and simply asked them, What was your process? What do you think makes a good story? What have you learned? How do you test it? And through that, I was able to learn a lot. And one of the things was this. These are an example of all of the frameworks that were mentioned during that podcast from different product marketers and heads of marketing who have said, these are the different things they might have used with their teams or by themselves as a way to ensure great product storytelling and product marketing storytelling. And I'd like to share with you 3 of those, which I think combine really well, that can be used by any product marketing team to increase storytelling effectiveness. The first of those is the story wheel. If you know anything about storytelling, it's probably this, is that majority of stories follow a very similar structure. This has been highlighted in a number of great books that you can explore, but basically you can summarize it into a wheel where most of your favorite movies, most of your favorite books, the character starts in an ordinary place, they go on some kind of adventure, they see a mentor, they go through an ordeal, and they return changed from beginning. And if you could think of some of your favorite movies and characters, they probably follow that similar structure. And what's great about this for product marketers is that it gives us a template to begin from. The hardest part about storytelling is that empty white page. Looking back at this, it's very intimidating. But if we have a framework and a template to start from, it suddenly becomes a lot less intimidating. And we can take our old campaigns and our old stories and pull them up and put them on this template and even see where we went wrong and dissect into different stories. So it's a great first step, is to start using the story wheel to start building stories within a team. Once you've done that, the next step is all about delivery. When you look at storytelling, there's kind of 2 parts to it. There's this understanding the storyteller and understanding the audience. And as product marketers, we should already have a very good understanding of our audience. It's almost our job, and we already have some great frameworks existing to do that. But one thing I think we fall down on is having a better understanding of ourselves, of the storyteller. And one way to do that is by using the brand archetype wheel. The brand archetype wheel was designed more in the brand world to help define who we are and what makes us different within the marketplace. This has never been more important than now, and there's so many different voices within the market, and we have to have a very good understanding of ourselves, not just to stand out, but also to speak from a place of authenticity. So the more that we understand ourselves, what makes us different, where our values is, we're going to be able to speak stories from a much more authentic place and be able to deliver a story which resonates a lot better. And the word resonate is what takes me to the 3rd, final, and most important part of the wheel, which is about embedding purpose. When you think what makes a great story, you say it's a story that resonates. And what I believe that means is that after hearing a story, you feel, think, or behave differently than before. And if you do that, then that's a successful story. And to be able to do that, the story has to come from a place of purpose. That's what makes us resonate there. And to do that, there are a few different great frameworks. Simon Sinek's Start With Why is a great example of one which is used to help to embed purpose and authenticity. But another one, which I think works really well, is actually from Japanese philosophy, the framework of Ikigai. And this is used to help embed personal purpose, but I also believe it can be done from a brand or company version as well, where simply we define our passion, our mission, our vocation and profession. And by doing that, we're taking the time to define what makes us different, where our value is, and where our authentic self is as a brand. And if we've already plotted our summary of what we want the story to be, we've defined our delivery by a better understanding of our audience and a better understanding of ourselves, and then we speak from a place of very unique and very authentic, then you're going to be able to embed purpose. So this is a great 1, 2, 3 that you can use with your product marketing team to start building great product stories. All of these I pull together and put into a Miro canvas, which you can see on the screen. So you can follow the link there and start doing this with your product marketing teams and experimenting and seeing what works. What you can also do is have an explore of the PMA Storytelling Certified course. So this is a course that I pull together with the PMA. Everything that you heard here today, whether it be from the science of storytelling, some more business cases, all of those frameworks which I took from the podcast, and of course, a demonstration of how to use the Story Engine Canvas you can find in there and become storytelling certified along with the PMA. So let's do a quick little summary. I started this presentation by saying that I believe that product marketing is the story engine of the organization. And to convince you of that, I told you that the first statement being that I believe humans think in stories, and because of that, that's the best way for us to communicate product to the market. Second statement was that stories embed value. And because of that, I believe effective storytelling is the best way to shape and add value to a product. I've really enjoyed giving the presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. I'd really encourage you to reach out to me and to hear more about your story. We also have the storytelling channel open on Slack. So please share some examples. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me afterwards as well. And thank you very much. And I hope you all enjoy the Product Marketing Festival.
Welcome to your PMA Pro membership, your gateway to continued professional product marketing development. Whether you're new to the industry or an experienced practitioner, we've covered all bases with our variety of specialist content, including on-demand presentations, templates, exclusive content, mentors, toolkits, learning paths, and more. So let's take a look at exactly what could be all yours as a pro member. Starting with exclusive articles, jam-packed with in-depth insights from experts at companies like Google, LinkedIn, HubSpot, and Drift. And we add new pieces to your dashboard every single week. Your template hub is packed with 50+ vetted and tested templates and frameworks designed to streamline fundamental processes. Used by companies such as Slack, Microsoft, Twitter, and TikTok, rest assured, you and your team will be equipped with the best materials to enhance your practice. And better yet, we add new templates into your plan every month. Here at PMA, we have a busy event schedule year-round, and as a pro member, you'll get access to every presentation on demand to enjoy whenever and wherever you please. Better yet, you won't have to pay a cent to attend our virtual festivals and summits. The discounts don't stop there either. As a pro member, you'll also get 10% off our suite of certification programs. After a structured learning experience, then our product marketing learning paths and toolkits are for you. Whether you've got a positioning overhaul on the horizon, want to upskill in sales enablement, or plan for next quarter's product launch, each toolkit and path features presentations, templates, and guides that'll help you hit the ground running and continue your professional development furthermore. Moving on to our peer councils. They're the perfect platform for live, virtual interaction, and the monthly gatherings allow you to connect with an intimate pod of product marketing leaders to strategize and collaborate. And last but not least is our mentor program. Whether you want to be a mentor, mentee, or both, you can accelerate your personal and professional growth by learning from product marketing heavyweights all over the world. So, with product marketing teams at globally recognized brands such as IBM, TikTok, Uber, and Amazon reaping the benefits of the stellar content on offer, why shouldn't you? Sign up for your PMM Pro membership and access a never-ending flow of tried, tested, and recommended tactics, learn from the leading lights in the industry, fast-track your professional development, and accelerate your career trajectory.
Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the Product Marketing Festival 2022. We have an awesome selection of innovative content lined up for you today, but before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our global audience, for joining us. From wherever in the world you are watching, we're sure you'll enjoy today's talks. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking your questions in the comment section for our speakers to answer. Each of today's sessions recordings will be uploaded into our on-demand content library. If you aren't already, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right in.
Hi everyone, I'm super excited to be speaking at Product Marketing Festival. Excited to be with you today. And we are covering the topic of a product market fit, the topic that I actually love and can endlessly speak about. A quick intro, my name is Yaroslav. I'm a product marketing manager at a company called Macfo. I'm a co-founder of the conference Growth Marketing Stage. And I was born and raised in Ukraine, and I live and work in Ukraine, which is, as you can imagine, is pretty challenging right now. So agenda for today's session, we're going to cover first and foremost, what is product market fit? Because the term is really overused at times, and I will give some clarity on what it actually is. Then I'll discuss how to measure product market fit. And then I'll be covering the product market fit radar, which is actually the core of today's presentation. The product market fit radar is the framework that my team and I developed. And this radar consists of 4 dimensions, which are activation, engagement, retention, and loyalty. And I'll dive deep into each of those dimensions separately. So let's dive deep into the product market fit topic first. So getting to product market fit is the only thing that matters for the product business, and it is not possible to build a company, to build a product, if you have not found your product market fit. But what is it? And how do you know you have reached product market fit? It's a simple question that is not difficult to answer. And unfortunately, it is not a rare case when the term product market fit is used incorrectly. And it is often stated that product market fit is different for every company, and there is no clear explanation on how to measure product market fit. The truth is that product market fit is absolutely clear and measurable entity. And it is not different for every company. Well, products can be unique. Markets can be unique. Absolutely. There is no question here. But the process of measuring the product market fit is not unique at all. So let's dive in. Product, market, what's in between? If we say that product is interpreted as a combination of value proposition, features, UX, and the market is defined as users and users' needs, which is hard to argue with, the fit between them lies in achieving the following. It is clear who the target customer is, and you bring those right customers in, okay? Second, it is clear which specific customer needs your product is to serve. Third, value proposition, the value proposition of your product that you're trying to communicate gets traction. Your product does have the right features to serve the needs of target customers, and the customers can easily understand how to do and what to do when interacting with your product. So if these 5 statements are true, not false, if all of them are true, it means you are in the right market with a product that can serve this market. So we can say that the formula would be fit equals statement 1 is true plus statement 2 is true plus statement 3 is true plus statement 4 is true and plus statement 5 is true. It is important to understand and think that those are not 5 audit steps, and like there's no priority between them, since it's almost important to argue with equal importance of each of them. Like all of them are equally important. And if we remove at least one of the product or market related variables, the fit between product and market might not happen. So the question, what to measure? And although the formula that we've just seen is very logical, it is difficult to question, but it only shows what is true when the product market fit is already found. And it does not help us understand which specific metrics have to be measured to monitor whether product market fit is happening. And you can constantly experiment with your value proposition, validate growth hypothesis, trying to understand which features are important and which features are not important. And you can proudly announce the winners of multiple A/B tests and have lots of debates on the criteria of the MVP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but not measuring the impact of activation, engagement, retention, and customer loyalty leads to building the products just for sake of building it. While your ultimate or your company's ultimate goal is to build the product a lot of customers want. So answer to this question on what to measure is like the fast version, the quick version is have a customer on the radar. And to understand when product market fit happens, you have to know how healthy your activation, engagement, retention, and customer loyalty indicators are. So 4 key areas for measuring product health are activation. Are new users becoming active users? Engagement. How engaged are your active users? Retention. Are you giving your users enough reasons to come back to your product over time? And loyalty. Are your users happy enough to become your promoters and bring more new users in? And now the question that you potentially have, like, okay, what is most important? Is it activation or engagement, or should I focus on retention or maybe loyalty? But like, what should you what should you focus first out of those 4? And it is important to understand that building a product a lot of customers want is not a single variable problem. So you have to pay attention to all of them. How do you pay attention to all of them, like 4 of them? Once again, focus on a customer, or like we said, have a customer on the radar. A customer whose life you are trying to improve and who actually hires your product to do the job. So product market fit radar. Now we're getting to the core of today's conversation. The product market fit radar is the framework that makes product market fit measurable and tangible, and thus easier to manage and discuss internally. And thinking of it as a radar, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, there are 4 dimensions that collectively, it's important to mention that collectively indicate whether the company found the product market fit. So with activation, you check whether new users have experienced the value of your product. With engagement, you measure the level of users' commitment to your product and find out whether they find value in your product. With retention, you can understand whether you are giving your users enough reasons to come back to your product over time. And with loyalty, you know whether you have enough loyal and enthusiastic customers who would recommend your product to other potential buyers. So having these 4 on the radar is a good way to measure the health of your product. And now let's dive deep into each of the dimensions on the radar, starting with activation. So activation is a moment when a new user takes a specific action to get value out of a product. And let's talk about the specific action a little bit. So, for example, in Instagram's case, the specific action might be like posting 3 photos or following 4 other accounts. For other types of products, activation could be defined as, let's say, signing up or making the first transaction or viewing 3 videos within a specified period of time, etc., or use certain number of applications, like etc., etc., etc. For every product, it is different. But what you have to keep in mind that activation is the moment when your user takes this specific action, and you have to define the specific action for your product that helps get value, that helps user get value out of the product. So activation metric answers the question, what percentage of new users have experienced the value of your product? And percentage of new users who have experienced your product's value equals number of specific actions divided by the number of new users. It's that simple. It's pretty basic formula. For example, let's say we have 100 completed first purchases, and we have 1,000 new users. So when 100 completed first purchases are divided by the number by 1,000 new users, that would mean that 10% of new users who got the value of the in product X. So we would have 10% activation rate for the specific e-commerce product X. I hope it makes sense. So now, how to identify activation metric? It is your job. It is your job to define what should be a key milestone in driving long-term product usage. And it's important to say that you do not have to guess. Do not try to guess. A good way to start is to analyze user behavior to find out what returned users consistently do in your product. And that would be the area where you would be able to identify the activation metric. Now, what is a positive activation rate indicator? Is it like 10%, 20%, 55%, 80%? You can start with what is considered to be an industry benchmark. You can start with a 30% as a benchmark for activation rate, and then check whether it is the right number. And you can build a dashboard that would say that negative activation rate is 10%, neutral activation rate is 30%, and anything that goes above 30% would be the positive activation rate. Again, it's important to start with something like, let's say, 30% as a benchmark, and then you adjust to your business, to your dynamics. Now, second dimension on the product market fit radar is engagement. And engagement rate helps you measure the level of users' commitment to your product and find out whether they find value in your product. So engagement rate answers the questions: how engaged are my active users, those who we have with activated status on the previous step? And to measure the depth of engagement per user, you have to divide the number of key actions completed by users, like transactions or songs listened to or movies watched or reports created, whatever. It's tailored to your product. So you have to divide the number of those key actions completed by users by active users count. For example, like weekly active users or monthly active users. And for example, let's say we have 10 million songs listened to, divided by 100 million monthly active users. That would equal 10% of engagement rate for the music streaming service. Okay, so once again, 10 million songs listened to, divided by 100 million monthly active users equals 10% engagement rate for the music streaming service. In your product, it should be different. Again, what is a positive engagement indicator? 1, 2, 50, 80, what is the right percentage? Again, you can start with 50% as a benchmark for activation rate, and then you set goals for improvement. So it's important to start with the number, and then as you go, you set goals for improvement. And you can, like I said, the same with as activation, you can build the dashboard where negative engagement rate would be less than 20%, neutral, anything below 50%, and positive, everything that exceeds the 50% point. So now we're coming to the third dimension of the product market fit radar. It's maybe my favorite one. It's a retention. So retention rate is the metric that helps you understand whether you're giving your users enough reasons to come back to your product over time. I repeated the statement like 5 times by now. And whether you are bringing the right users in. So whether you're giving enough reasons to come back and whether those are the right users that you brought in. Retention rate answers the question: how many of your active users return to your product over time? So to measure your product's retention, you have to use the retention curve. Let's say this is what you see right now. Let's say this is a retention curve for product A, and we are analyzing users who started using product A for the first time on January 1st through January 31st. So this graph shows the weighted average of nth day retention numbers from cohorts of users acquired within that time of period, within this period of time. So according to this retention curve, for example, day 5 retention is 50%. This means that out of all the users who first used the product on January 1st, which was day 0 for us, 50% came back and were active on January 6th, on day 5. And looks like a huge drop off, but we can see that the curve stabilizes on day 15. That's important. So we can say that product A has a product market fit for this particular cohort. And yes, retention can indicate whether your product has a product market fit problem. Because products, in another example, like product B's retention trends to 0 pretty fast, which means that it does not give its users enough value to return and take key actions. So product B has not found product market fit. And another important note, before building a similar graph to measure your product's retention, make sure you have clearly defined the following. Key action, like action that you want a user to do every time they use your product, and usage interval, frequency. It's daily, weekly, monthly, with which you expect people to use your product. Because frequency is important, like for different products that would be different. Let's say in Booking.com, it can be monthly or annually. In Slack, it would be daily. So it's really tailored to the use cases that the product serves. And now we're coming to the fourth dimension on the product market fit radar, which is not to check your customers, whether your customers have established the habit around your product and give them enough reasons to come back to your product. This one is aimed to measure how loyal your customers are. So measuring customers' loyalty helps you know whether you have enough loyal and enthusiastic customers who recommend your product to other potential buyers. And what is important to measure in loyalty? Why is it important to measure customer loyalty? Mainly because a loyal customer is the one who, A, is less likely to look around for alternative solutions, and B, is more likely to recommend your product to others. So how to measure customers' loyalty? There are multiple ways to measure customer loyalty. Some companies associate it with dollar or revenue related metrics like customer lifetime value or repurchasing level and multiple product purchases. Others prefer to measure customer loyalty index, which is derived from customer surveys. So when thinking of customers' loyalty and trying to understand whether you've built a product a lot of customers want, we think, and we have this story proven, Net Promoter Score is the right metric to apply. So NPS is measured with a single question, that you are asking your customers, and it's reported with a number from -100 to +100. So the question that you use sounds like this. How likely is that you would recommend product X to a friend or colleague? And respondents give rating between 0, not likely at all, or not at all likely, and 10, extremely likely. And depending on their response, they fall into 3 categories. Promoters, those who put 9 and 10, and those are loyal and enthusiastic customers who recommend your product to other potential buyers. Passives, 7 and 8. Satisfied customers, but not happy enough to be considered promoters. And detractors, those who put 0 to 6. They are unhappy customers who are unlikely to repurchase your product and can damage the product's reputation with a negative word of mouth. So to determine the NPS, you have to subtract the percentage of detractors from the percentage of promoters. And NPS, like I said, can range from -100 to 100. And I'm sure a lot of people here today do know what NPS is and how to calculate NPS, but I just want to kind of explain it once again to make sure that we are on the same page here. So what is a positive NPS? It varies by industry. Like for software or apps industry, for example, this is where my company plays in. 30 is an average score. You can compare your NPS against other companies and set your goals. So, but the main goal is to constantly experiment to build the experience that creates promoters and build the product a lot of customers want. So, an important thing, you have to make sure you measure it timely by cohorts. Do not create lots of pop-ups in the product with NPS scale in front of the users at every step of their user journey for all the users multiple times. No, just do not overuse it, because there is like NPS trap. You have to measure it timely, like once a quarter, for example, and cohort based. So you really have to make sure that you are asking this question, you're putting this question in front of the right users. So let's just summarize a little bit. The product market fit is happening when all of these 4 statements are true. Like we said, users have experienced the value of your product. That's about activation. Users find value in your product. This is when engagement is happening. That's an indicator. Users are given enough reasons to come back to your product over time. And this is where we apply a retention curve to see whether it stabilizes and when it stabilizes. And loyalty. Users are loyal and enthusiastic and are willing to recommend your product to other potential buyers. So achieving product market fit means you build a product a lot of customers want. A lot cannot be true when at least one of those 4 is false, right? So you have to build the product a lot of customers want. So product market fit equals activation, engagement, retention, and loyalty. All that would be the right formula. Activation plus engagement plus retention plus loyalty. Those 4 have to be on a required scale. Let's put it this way. And the product market fit radar makes them possible to be measured and thus easier to manage and discuss with your teams. Now you might be thinking, like, why these 4? Why activation, engagement, retention, and loyalty? And basically because none of them is a vanity metric, okay? All of them are about a customer. All of them are about the value of your product. All of them are actionable, and all of them are measurable. So next steps, as I would envision after this session, you go back to the office and you build your product market fit radar. So you measure your activation rate, you measure your product's engagement rate, retention rate, and you spend time measuring your loyalty rate. Okay, so that's what I will be. If you do this, I'm a happy camper that we spend time wisely here today. That's it. And one last thing, a really quick one. At the beginning of the session, I said that I was born and raised in Ukraine and I live and work in Ukraine, and it's pretty challenging. So one of my current goals outside of my full-time job is to raise as much donations for Ukraine as possible. And the way I do it is I exchange my time, my expertise for donations. So I'm not asking anyone to just donate, but I'm exchanging my time and my expertise donations. And the good news is that the company I work for, MacPo, has launched a MacPo Development Foundation, which accepts those donations, and all the money goes to support the Ukrainian army and Ukrainians in need. And at MacPo, like, there is an allocated team to work on this cause, so we treat it really, really seriously. So I encourage you to leverage my time and my expertise, and I can run, it can be a workshop or a Q&A session for your team, or mentorship sessions for you or your employees. I'm open for pretty much any format of collaboration. And the topics I can cover are mainly in the product marketing space, obviously, like research and analysis, positioning and messaging, go-to-market strategies, metrics, and as you can see, finding, holding, and scaling product market fit. This is something I can help you with. And remember, if you choose to leverage me and my expertise in this initiative, you are donating not only to Ukraine, you are donating to help Ukraine save the rest of the Europe and the entire world, because Ukraine is fighting for the entire civilized world right now. So I'm happy for collaboration with you, your companies, or your colleagues, for the nations to help Ukraine win this war. Thank you so much. And this is my email address, so feel free to reach out to me, and let's see if I can be of service and of help for your business. Thank you so much. That's it on the Product Market Fit Radar. I hope it was useful. And remember, when you come back to the office, at least try building your Product Market Fit Radar, measure your activation rate, your engagement rate, understand what is retention rate and when it's happening, and what is the percentage of loyal customers that you have. And if you have any questions on how to build this radar, feel free to reach out to me. You have my email address. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure. I feel privileged to be speaking here today. If you have any immediate questions, let's have a product marketing discussion right now.
Hello and welcome to the Product Marketing Festival. We have some fantastic sessions on the agenda for you today, but before we jump in, I have a very exciting announcement to make. The Product Marketing Awards are back for 2022, and I'm delighted to announce that nominations are now open. We received a whopping 181 unique nominations last year, and this year we want even more PMM pioneers to be recognised. We have 7 top-notch categories for you to get involved in, and we can't wait to shout about the incredible product marketing talent within our community. The categories are Product Marketing Leader of the Year, Product Marketing Team of the Year, Product Marketing MVP of the Year, Product Marketing Newcomer of the Year, Positioning and Messaging Maestro of the Year, Product Launch of the Year, and Top Companies to Work in Product Marketing. Nominations are now open, but must close on August 19th. So what are you waiting for? Spread the word, get your nominations in, and celebrate those product marketing superstars that continue to go the extra mile. We'll be sharing a link to the nomination page in the chat throughout the day, so keep a lookout for that. We're also here if you have any questions, so please feel free to reach out via Slack or email. Now, after all the excitement, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for joining us today at the festival. Please make the most of these sessions by asking your questions and sharing your feedback in the comment section of the video. So with that, let's get back to the sessions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Product Marketing Festival panel. The three of us are here today to talk about cross-functional collaboration for a successful go-to-market. So if that's not interesting to you, then you are in the wrong place. As product marketers, collaboration is at the center of our role and our day-to-day. The three of us here will have a 45-minute discussion about what effective collaboration looks like, some differences across company sizes, and some strategies and tactics to deliver amazing projects as a team. As product marketers, we're uniquely positioned to influence multiple teams with the goal of building successful cross-functional go-to-market machinery. And hopefully we'll have a good discussion about that today. So who are we? I'll start with myself. My name is Ethan. I currently lead product marketing at a Series B startup based here in the Bay Area called Motorq. We do connected car analytics. Prior to that, I worked at Salesforce for a while and worked at another analytics startup. Kind of stumbled into product marketing, to be honest, but very, very happy that I did. I love the experimentation and the collaboration sort of at the center of it. So with that, I will pass it to Misha to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Misha Rangel. I'm the Director of Enterprise Product Marketing for a company called Veeam. So we are about 5,000 employees, and we do tech B2B marketing for the tech space. So I have been in product marketing for quite a while, also stumbled into it, and have worked for a broad base of companies all the way from kind of small, high growth, all the way up to, an IBM, where I worked for a few years. So I've had a lot of varied experience, but all within the field of product marketing.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Misha. I'm really excited to be in this panel discussion. So my name is Indrani and I'm Senior Product Marketeer at iMocha. This is an AI-enabled digital skill assessment company, and I'm currently working with a team size of about 200 people here. My journey has been around 12 years long, and I've dabbled myself into various areas of sales and marketing, starting from inside sales, PR, social media, digital advertising, product marketing, and I found that product marketing is definitely one of my favorite areas. So yeah, this is where I want to stick around for definitely a long time. Yeah, and my experience has also been from starting with a startup and then going into a 5,000 plus company. So yeah, a varied experience, I would say. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Nice. Thank you. I think we're very lucky to have both of you here, and looking forward to getting into the questions. So that's what we'll do now. We have the way this will work is we have a series of questions that we'll talk through. Hopefully you can pick out some themes from them. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to drop them in the comments and we will get to them from there. So just to kick us off, why are we even here? Why are we talking about this? Why are we having this session? Why is cross-functional collaboration so important for product marketing and more broadly for go-to-market teams? Misha, do you want to start us off here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was so excited when I saw the topic for this panel, because I really do believe that good cross-functional collaboration and communication is the secret superpower of any successful product marketer. It is so important in our role. And, as we even describe product marketing, we sit at the intersection of so many elements of the business, between marketing and sales and product. And so the ability to communicate and always be evolving is just such an important skill that, I don't think we talk about enough. So.
Indrani, anything to add? Why is this important to you? Why were you excited to speak at this session? What resonates to you? What resonates with you about cross-functional collaboration?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel that, from the year 2017, especially in Indian market, I've seen a lot of, digital growth, digital transformation here, and even around the world, right? So product companies, different businesses, they are currently, they need to launch their products as soon as possible to beat the competition, to, stay ahead, So I feel that the product marketeers, we need to take that advantage, and we need to cross collaborate with different functions, and sort of come up with a really great strategy for anything, for any kind of product launch or service launch. So yeah, I think that's pretty much why I found that this topic is really interesting.
Nice. And Johnny, maybe we'll stick with you to kind of get into a little bit deeper of what it is we're talking about. So this panel is called Cross-Functional Collaboration for Successful Go-to-Market. Is this term successful go-to-market, is it worth defining? Is it just revenue, or OKRs, something else? What does successful go-to-market look like for you?
So Ethan, for me, I would say how I personally defined a successful GTM is how efficiently different teams can come together, align their goals. It's definitely, OKR, setting OKRs for themselves, as far as, you see other teams, how they are prioritizing their goals, and also aligning your goals according, to the business goals, right? So it's more of a shared purpose, I guess. And obviously, the revenue is definitely going to be a part, because this is kind of a business ecosystem that we are talking about. However, how efficiently each of these teams work together is definitely important. So that's what I feel that success looks like for me.
Nisha, anything to add there, or just completely agree with what Indrani said?
I mean, go-to-market is such a loaded term, right? We all hear it used in different ways. And I think how we measure and define success can vary as well. At kind of a simplistic level, we could look at, pipeline generation, we could look at revenue, etc. But I think also when it comes to successful go-to-market, I like to try to figure out ways to measure kind of the softer side of things. So just one example, it's the end of the quarter, well, the beginning of the new quarter for us. And for our programs, we send out a pulse survey to sales to ask them how confident they are with our message, and speaking with our clients about it. So that's a way that we measure kind of some of the softer sides of product marketing around messaging and things like that may not visualize in the pipeline and revenue numbers.
Sure. No, I love that. Measuring the pulse, measuring the vibes. I think that's actually an underrated part, or an under-discussed part of product marketing is bringing that energy and setting the tone, and saying like, look, like I'm this excited about it, so you can at least be this excited about it, and kind of like measuring how that stuff is landing. Very cool. All right, moving on. So we kind of laid some of the foundation, kind of talked about the why we're here, but I now want to shift a little bit into the how. So what are some key strategies for effective cross collaboration? How do you do it? How do you engage key stakeholders from various functions? What are some approaches that you use? And Misha, let's start with you here.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that it's important to have, and again, I'm coming from a fairly large organization, and for a fairly large organization with a ton of stakeholders, the key is really having regular cadences and communication channels. And then also, it sounds, kind of simple, but it's been very helpful for me just to have defined in one place kind of the stakeholders both kind of our core group of stakeholders as well as people that need to be informed, and then maybe executives. And, you know, so you have a few different levels of communication as well, and really kind of working to define what that communication plan looks like for those different groups of stakeholders is a great first place to start.
Absolutely. Indrani, do you want to weigh in here? What, just to repeat the question, sort of how do you do it is sort of the boiled down version of the question, but how do you build this collaboration? How do you engage stakeholders?
Yeah, this is a really great question, because you know, when I started out in the product marketing area, there were a lot of you know, sort of debriefing sessions going on, or, you know, share data, like, you know, whenever you are creating something, you have to share with the entire organization. But I felt that, you know, there has to be an empathetic way in terms of, you know, how the other person is going to receive that data is extremely important. Like, you know, if you're sending out an internal newsletter of, you know, what exactly you have done, maybe, you know, you can record a session like, you know, we do for sales enablement sessions, or, you know, debriefing sessions for, let's say, demand generation team. So some sort of, you know, along with the documentation, if you can also send a short explainer video of what is exactly that you're looking for, or, you know, how exactly that information can be used by other teams. I think that's one of the effective ways that I've found, you know, in product marketing area. Plus, you know, there are Ask Me Anything sessions where, you know, big hairy topics where a lot of healthy debates and conversations can go on, like, you know, war rooms, just, you know, being open to anyone's idea, right? So that's something, you know, definitely helps me, where, you know, you just stay in the loop, you contribute to a specific topic, everyone comes in and we listen, you know, having a healthy debate. It's not, you know, just pushing any particular opinion or anyone's opinion.
Right.
Apart from that, I think, you know, Misha already mentioned, you know, cadences, QBRs, weekly or bi-weekly, monthly meetings. One thing that I found that was, you know, we have to also respect each other's time. So whenever we are, you know, setting up these cross-functional cadences, sometimes our calendars might look a little, you know, overwhelming. So maybe, you know, setting up an agenda for those cadences would be really great. You know, if it is for a specific project, sometimes, you know, you need to reschedule sync meetings because you don't have anything to catch up on, right? Other times, you know, you have to increase the frequency if there's a really big launch going on, right? So yeah, I think flexibility is a word I would say when it comes to cadences.
Yeah, I what you said about agendas and calendars resonates a lot. Anyone who's worked with me knows that I'm a big fan of agendas. At one of the organizations I worked, there was explicit guidance, like, if the meeting you're about to attend does not have an agenda, feel free not to go, or feel free to not go, which I thought was interesting. All right, so shifting to the next question, sort of you know, I think one of the things that's cool about this panel is we've had experience working at a variety of company sizes. And so I want to talk a little bit about, are there aspects of cross-functional collaboration that are fundamentally different across company size? You know, does your approach change? Are there key differences? And so, Indrani, maybe we'll stay with you to kind of kick us off here. Is it the same? Is it the same depending on company size, or are there changes that you'd make to your approach?
No, absolutely. There are changes, because when you work for a really large organization, you know, maybe a Fortune 500 company, there are processes out there, right? So, and there are so many people out there that you need to collaborate with. So I feel that, you know, that sort of cements or, you know, sort of helps you cross collaborate easier, right? However, when it comes to, you know, a startup or, you know, a growth phase company, it's more like, you have to get to the revenue, right? So the revenue becomes a lot more a focus area. However, if you look at a startup, they also have to be very nimble when it comes to go-to-market strategies. So more efficiently that you can collaborate and come to a decision, maybe data-driven decisions. I'm a big fan of data-driven decisions. So yeah, unless, you have data to make those decisions, you can't really, go back and forth and, really respect each other's time, right? So follow processes, but also be flexible. So that's what I've learned from, working in a startup environment. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sure, Misha will be able to add a lot more.
Yeah, working for a large company and then, having experience working for a smaller company, I think working within a group that's part of a larger product portfolio, right? Which is kind of a function of being a larger company. Like, you don't necessarily just have one focus as a business. There's a lot of different focuses out there. And part of the challenge in successful go-to-market is really just having mind share of, the company. So you are somewhat, fighting for mind share and resources. Fighting is a strong word, but you're competing, with other initiatives, other things going on in the business to stay top of mind. So, I think in particular for large companies, it's important to be out there and talking to your key stakeholders, to be making sure that, your project or product or agenda that you're trying to drive forward is staying top of mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I love the term mind share. Another thing I wrote down just now is kind of focus. I think acknowledging that we all are in a battle, you use the word fight, but we're in a battle for our stakeholders' attention every day. I think we understand that it's easy to understand that for our external stakeholders, but also internally. I mean, partner channel partners, like, they're getting so many inbound messages, and so thinking about how to make it easy to consume and easy for them is something that I think about a lot. One other thing I'll say here is I'll present a little bit of a different take, in that my approach at a fundamental level, regardless of company size, is actually the same. I think it depends on what level you're answering the question. Like, the return on the approach is very different, and the steps afterwards. But my approach is, you have to kind of have shared experiences with people, which generally is working on projects with them. So I'll pull someone from the sales team and be like, let's work on this project together. Then you're going to present it to the sales team, and then once we've done that together, hopefully, we've been able to show that we work well together, and that the product was good, and or the product of our collaboration was good. To me, those personal relationships build a lot of momentum towards, like, broader cross-functional collaboration. And then the step after that, to the points that both of you made, pretty different based on company size, but I think there's some commonalities. So I think that's great, and I know we have folks from a lot of different company sizes here, so hopefully that's helpful. All right, so we talked a bit before. Indrani, you brought up the question of differing opinions, or the sharing opinions and being able to disagree. I want to talk explicitly about that now. So I want to talk about feedback, because as product marketers, we get a lot of it. Sometimes it's unsolicited. And so I'd like to hear from each of you, sort of, how do you approach navigating these differences of opinion? How do those arise? And maybe how do you ask for feedback in a way that's useful to both you and the person who is giving the feedback? Let's start with you on this question, Misha.
Yeah, so I think feedback is an inevitable part of what we do. And it is particularly challenging when it is your opinion versus someone else's opinion, which is why I think it is important to be proactive around testing and validating and having the information that you can support your position, because then that position of opinion kind of goes away, and it's more about like we've researched this, we've tested it, and we've validated that it works. You know, I think also a really important piece of feedback is, number one, you know, making sure to acknowledge and thank people for their feedback, make them feel heard, right? Because that is going to be super important. But then also, I think it is important to be clear and communicative when that feedback is not followed up on, right? Because you don't want to leave with false expectations, and nobody wants to have those awkward, you know, conversations where it's like, hey, I respect your opinion, but we're not gonna do that. But I think it's important to have those conversations directly, and, you know, maybe follow up with conversations and talk a little bit more through like why. But the worst is when someone is thinking that one thing is going to happen and then it never happens. So, you know, just being proactive with those communications, even if those conversations are not always fun, it's better to have it on the front end. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The word proactive there stands out. So I think that's a great point. Indrani, how do you handle this? Maybe in some of the situations you described earlier, what's your approach?
So, Ethan, I feel that, you know, cross-functional collaboration is more of a culture. Like, it's how you collaborate to accomplish, you know, a shared goal, or you make decisions together, or how you treat each other, you know, especially when you are unsupervised, right? And it needs to be 100% integrated in your organizational culture. Plus, I guess, you know, and any new culture, it kind of depends upon how learnable it is for a new team member, you know, if they come as a new team member, right? So I think the flexibility part is main, because we have to listen, adapt, and like Misha mentioned, that feedback is a really important part. However, I feel that, you know, any point of cross-functional collaboration gets just, you know, simply lost, because unless, you know, you have a strategy in place, like, you know, who's actually going to lead a certain project or a product, or, you know, a certain area, let's say if it is creative, or if it is messaging, or, you know, if it becomes, you know, at a point when you have to really collaborate with the technical teams on extremely, you know, technical aspects of a, let's say, you know, data sheet, right, or a workflow. So yeah, I think that every team member doesn't need to have a say in every event or initiative. It's just, you know, going to lead to the failure of the entire structure, or the point of having a cross collaboration with different functions. I believe that, you know, different representatives should own, connect dots. And as I mentioned earlier, right, that I'm a huge fan of data-driven decisions. So make decisions together, but it should be supported with data, or, you know, A/B testing if it is, you know, something creative. So yeah, that's usually my approach.
Oh, one other thing that kind of spurred for me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, when it comes to kind of like go-to-market activities, we get inundated with we need to do more. And, you know, all of what we're doing, and then on top of that, more activities, and more feels bigger. And a lot of times more stuff actually just kind of spreads too thin, and it does the opposite of what the intention is. I mean, how many times have we heard like, oh, we need to do like, are we making this go viral on social media, or, all these things that we're kind of like, oh my God, like, so I think when you hear stuff like that, you kind of have to peel back the onion and ask like, okay, why are they asking for that specific thing? Because that may not be the actual thing that they need, but what they're asking for is, kind of peeling back and understanding, what they're trying to drive with that, and then seeing how that maps to some things that we're already doing or that we need to add, but, making sure that we're not just kind of like order taking from different groups of like whatever activities or one pagers or things that, that they're asking for.
Absolutely love your answer, Misha.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's right. And I think what's interesting about this concept of digging a little deeper or peeling back the layers or seeing what's underneath, you see this across disciplines. So in sales, when you're doing your discovery calls and someone says, oh, does your product do this one thing? Right? I think we coach salespeople to say, well, what's underneath that? Like why are they? So no, we don't do that thing, but don't let the conversation end there. Get to what is the true use case, or what is the unmet need or the pain that is driving that question, because maybe we can get there in a different way. I also remember reading this quote, which I'm going to now butcher, of course. It's from a design book, and it's basically something like, a good designer will typically not solve the problem that the client thinks needs to be solved. Like a huge part of that work is, you think this is the problem, but actually the problem is probably something that's underneath or to the side, and doing that discovery up front, just so important to kind of designing something that's gonna meet the true need. So I love that. I like when I like to look out for like when things appear in different disciplines, because then I'm like, oh, maybe there's something there. All right, couple more questions. I want to talk. This was based on Indrani, something that you said. A question around. So you talked about how cross-functional collaboration is more of a culture, and I think we've talked about cross-functional collaboration at a few different levels, but maybe we can talk about it a little bit at the cultural level. And so what I'm thinking about specifically is celebrating people, or essentially rewarding people for collaborating with you. How do you think about doing that? And are there, so do you think about that first of all? And then how have you done that successfully in the past?
Oh my God, that's so important, because there are so many people from different teams that are helping you reach your goals, right? Maybe from a PR team, a person from PR team is really working towards making sure that your product is positioned right in the market, or if a demand generation team. So one of the things that I've seen really work well is to have a dedicated I've seen a lot of collaboration tools nowadays, right? Microsoft Teams or Slack, just set up one particular channel organization wide, and just praise, give recognition to those people who deserve, who have helped you, even for a minor task or anything like that. So that's just give them the visibility, and I feel that appreciating, the more you appreciate people, it's nothing like that. It just builds that relationship, like you mentioned, that one-on-one relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I think the act of saying thank you and acknowledging, especially when that people are going be above and beyond, goes a long way. I think a lot of companies, I know we do have like internal recognition programs, like that you can nominate teams or projects. So internal recognition on a broader scale is always great. Another small thing that I try to do is even like on LinkedIn, you know, when I'm sharing, you know, things, accomplishments that the team has done, I always try to tag, you know, people in that accomplishment, because that's giving them kind of broader awareness and acknowledgement, even outside the company, you know, within our networks and things like that. So.
Yeah, I think those, I love the tactics that both of you have mentioned. Just to share one more that I have seen be effective, particularly after a launch, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a launch with a big L, but some project delivery, if it's of sufficient size and the team was sufficiently large, doing kind of a launch party, which in our current remote world is sadly a PowerPoint or Google Slides deck, but you know, saying, so like, hey, we just launched this feature. We're going to have someone from the engineering team talk about the hard work that went on behind the scenes to do this. Someone from the product team who talk about like the goals, and sort of basically giving everyone a chance to shine and show how they poured their expertise into this thing. And I think as product marketers, we provide that platform. And one of the things I think about is like my job is to make other people's work matter. And to say, like, to give that platform internally, you know, I love the idea of the LinkedIn post and kind of getting it into the broader network, but internally kind of doubles as an opportunity to educate the broader organization about the launch, but also gives people an opportunity to say, this is what I contributed. And I think, in Johnny, to your point, it helps create kind of that momentum and those good vibes, which we started off the call talking about. Okay, so just a couple more questions. These two questions are going to be sort of getting towards the end of our time here, so sort of getting towards a wrap up. So the first one is there one piece of advice that you'd like to offer to people who are, maybe they're aspiring product marketers or current product marketers, or maybe experienced product marketers? I know we have a variety on the call today, but is there one piece of advice that maybe someone gave you, or that's been very important to your success, you'd like to pass on to our audience? And Indrani, should we start with you?
Sure. So I guess, you know, one piece of advice that I can think of is, you know, always think about your customer. Whatever you are doing, you know, always, you know, keep customer in the middle whenever you are sitting down in a meeting. And this is something, you know, I've learned from my peers in some of the past organizations, that always putting customer experience first is definitely going to help you. There's nothing like it. Understanding, okay, there can be differences of opinions, there can be, you know, hurdles, but at the end of the day, whatever you're doing it for the customer, right? So understanding your customer, talk to them, you know, connect with them whenever you can, you know, send surveys, just, you know, pick up on the phone or call them, right? Set up meetings, visit them. Have them on top of your mind whenever you're creating, whenever you're creating any document or any kind of asset, the buyer persona, your ICP, that has to be on top of your mind. That's the only piece of advice I can think of right now.
Nice.
For me, I don't know how many of y'all have seen the matrix of like urgent and important. But I think that is just kind of like a constant challenge for us as product marketers, that we can completely fill our day, if we're not careful with urgent but not important tasks. And many times as product marketers, we have very important kind of strategic thinking and planning that we have to do, that no one in your organization may be asking you for, but it will make you a better leader and more successful in your discipline. So, you know, my advice would be find time and the headspace that's needed to do that important work that no one may be asking for, but is going to be important to drive the business forward. So.
I love both of those pieces of advice. And I think there's a very interesting maybe intersection of both of those, where there are going to be cases where as a product marketer, you'll be the only person who's able to protect the mind share to do that important thinking about your customer, or to put your customer first in a way that is legible and interpretable to other parts of the organization, and communicating that. And so I definitely think about these things, and thinking about what is something that only I can do, or my role. I have such a unique vantage point, you know, such an opportunity to collaborate with folks across the organization. What is something that only I can do, or I'm best positioned to do? And so I love these pieces of advice as kind of examples of that. All right, coming now to our final question of the day, and this is I'm going to ask you to look ahead a little bit, to gaze into the future. I'd love if you could talk about your vision for how you're looking to evolve as a product marketer, and maybe how you see the role itself evolving, if you care to answer that as well. You know, as here at the Product Marketing Festival, doing a lot of learning from other product marketers. And so, but what's the type of learning that you're looking to do? What's the next evolution that you're looking to undergo? And Misha, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, first of all, I think it's so exciting to see kind of the evolution and awareness of just product marketing as a discipline. There are just so many more resources, particularly from the Product Marketing Alliance, but, you know, also, you know, there's just better awareness around, you know, what the role is and how to advance in the role. So I'm very happy for that. I think personally, you know, I am now in a point of my career where I am more focused on how to evolve as a leader and to develop my team of product marketers. And, you know, as we all face, you know, the same challenge of bandwidth and time, right? So how do you best utilize your time and resources to get the most, you know, out of the team output? So I'm just constantly, you know, trying to figure out ways to do that better.
And Johnny, go to you.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I feel that, you know, as a product marketer, as next steps, I would definitely like to put myself in the shoes of a product manager and, you know, understand more about, you know, their journey. You know, definitely we as product marketers, we are always in the loop, right? But the entire process of how they come up with those solutions, that's something that I'm yet to learn. And I feel that as a product marketer, I should learn. So yeah, I feel that, you know, that's something I'm definitely looking forward to.
Very cool. Misha, were you gonna jump in with one more thing?
You know, I think that's a great one. And I think, you know, it is an area that I come from not a technical background. And so kind of having the discipline to learn more technically about our product and what we do is always an area that I think we can develop. So I love that. I love that suggestion.
Yeah, I like that too. And I think it's kind of the other side of the coin of some of the cons that we feel of having this role be ill-defined and maybe not necessarily the most intuitive to explain to someone in one sentence, although, you know, I'm still working on that. But I think the pros of that are sort of what both of you have discussed. We have this ability, this optionality in how we develop, and we define the role, and we and everyone on this call and everyone at the PMM Festival kind of we define the role every day, not necessarily into a sharper and sharper point, but into these various paths and areas of influence. So with that, I think we'll wrap up. It's been such a pleasure to be on this panel with the two of you, Misha and Indrani. Thank you for taking the time to share your expertise, and looking forward to the next time. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
The Product Marketing Alliance membership is an incredible resource for product marketers with all types of experience.
It's definitely a goldmine of information and resources, from the Slack community to the templates and resources.
I can go out and see how are other people thinking about their growth strategies or product adoption. How are others thinking about the best ways to do customer interviews, or how others are setting up the content and customer advisory boards.
There's some great real life examples that I can either make a copy of or take as inspiration and really make my own.
Getting access to the videos and the templates is more than worth the cost, because you get to see what the top PMMs are doing and how they think.
From persona frameworks to go-to-market templates to articles written by experienced product marketers, this content has become an additional resource to help me succeed at my job.
My personal favorite is the mentorship program. It's definitely been a game changer for me.
When I have some planning time available, I love to look at the different videos and conferences that they have posted. I always love to hear how other companies are handling some of the challenges and opportunities that product marketing has.
I could then figure out what's the best way to adapt for us, as well as look at how other people are implementing them. So I can ultimately do the work of 5 individuals as a solo PMM.
Whether you're just transitioning into the field or you're a product marketing expert, I think there's content and materials that are useful for everyone.
And as someone looking to break into the role, I get a good grasp of what I should be doing and also what will make me successful once I do.
And the best thing is that as members, we get access to new content all the time. PMA constantly keeps adding more materials, articles, and tools.
This whole program's been very validating for me in my career.
And so I highly encourage you to check out.
I believe they keep pushing the bar and supporting their members to ensure that we become experts in the field.
Did you know that Product Marketing Core is accredited by the Chartered Institute of Marketing and Continuing Professional Development? Did you know that product marketeers from organizations like TikTok, Facebook, Sky, Typeform, Zendesk, Microsoft, and more have chosen PMA to get certified over other providers? That giants like HubSpot, April Dunford, IBM, Adobe, and SurveyMonkey help put the course content together, and that more and more companies are requesting PMA certification as a prerequisite to applying for jobs. Product Marketing Core is quickly becoming the product marketing certification of choice, and once you delve into the curriculum, it's not hard to see why. PMMC is the most comprehensive course around. It goes above and beyond the breadth and depth of any other product marketing course there is, and that's a fact. But don't just take our word for it. Here's what now certified PMM Gabrielle Dane had to say about it. This course is everything a product marketer needs, and it explores the unique role of a PMM in a way that has simply not been done before. And the good reviews certainly don't stop there. Hundreds of product marketeers have gotten certified with PMA. And with words like this, it's not hard to see why. Whether you want to get certified at your own pace or join a virtual room full of others live and online, PMA is the product marketing provider of choice. See for yourself.
Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the Product Marketing Festival 2022. We have an awesome selection of innovative content lined up for you today, but before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers and you, our global audience, for joining us. From wherever in the world you are watching, we're sure you'll enjoy today's talks. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking your questions in the comment section for our speakers to answer. Each of today's sessions recordings will be uploaded into our on-demand content library. If you aren't already, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right in.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to How to Drive More Impactful Go-to-Market Strategies with Market and Customer Insights. My name is Morgan, and here's a little bit about me. I live in Redwood City, California, with my husband, Alex, and golden retriever, Penny. I'm a researcher turned marketer, beginning my career at Nielsen in their marketing analytics division, consulting for major consumer goods companies. I then joined SurveyMonkey, now Momentive, over 7 years ago, and I've been in product marketing for over 5 of those years, having built the function for our insights business. So time for a little bit of humble brags. I was named one of PMA's top 100 product marketing influencers and ShareBird's top 100 product marketing mentors. Last year, I taught the product launch course for CXL's product marketing mini degree. One thing about my role that I just love is building frameworks and enabling other product marketers to be just as successful. And just for fun, my guilty pleasures are reality dating shows and sour candy. All right. So some of you may not be familiar with Momentive, but you may know us as the maker of SurveyMonkey. Last year, we rebranded our company to create a fresh page to tell our story. And as we've evolved way beyond surveys, we needed something that gave us that breadth of storytelling capabilities. We are a leader in agile insights and experience management with AI-powered solutions built for the speed of modern business, spanning 5 different categories. So we help you deeply understand your market, elevate your brand performance, deliver memorable customer experiences, innovate and build new products, and cultivate happy, engaged employees. Our solutions benefit from our immense scale, as SurveyMonkey's been in business for over 2 decades, and that history of building research technology. And we get to work with some really cool companies. Helping organizations elevate the experiences they offer is really why Momentive exists. We've purpose-built solutions for empowering brands at every stage of their customers' journey. We're helping companies of all industries, all sizes, from high-growth startups to now currently serving 95% of the Fortune 500. Today, you'll hear some examples from companies that we're working with, in addition to how we at Momentive have put our own solutions into practice. So that brings me to today's discussion. We'll talk about what makes a strong go-to-market strategy, and then I'll dive into 5 practical ways to use market and customer insights to inform your strategy and execution. And while this is all intuitive to me, someone who lives and breathes research, it might not be for all of you. So I'll make sure that you have some tangible steps for getting started today. I'll start with some data from PMA's latest State of Product Marketing report. You can find this on their website. We product marketers have a tough job. We need to combine market and customer knowledge to influence the product roadmap, create go-to-market strategies, and enable our marketing, sales, and customer success partners to be successful. Just look at this list of responsibilities. The majority of us are owning positioning and messaging, managing launches, sales collateral, market research, and then you see things like towards the bottom that some of us also own, like roadmap planning and customer onboarding. It's a lot. One thing is for certain though, more data from the same report, most product marketers are in charge of leading the go-to-market process and product launches. That doesn't mean that launches are always successful though, in terms of meeting customer adoption and financial targets. The same PMA report showed that launches are deemed successful by product marketers less than half the time if you combine those first 2 triangles there. Now, there may be a bunch of reasons that this could be the case, but if we get real with ourselves, a lot of the success and lack thereof of launches can be attributed to the go-to-market strategy. So there's a lot that you need to get right. Here is a short list of things that make a really strong go-to-market strategy. So first, there's the launch process alignment. So do you have clear launch goals and accountability towards those goals? A launch timeline, maybe even with some go, no-go milestones in case anything gets delayed. Roles and responsibilities. At Momentive, we use a DAISY model, sometimes known as a RACI model. Whatever works for you, make sure that people know their role and what the expectations are in a launch. And then success measurement and tracking, super important. To make sure that even before you've launched anything live, that you know how you're going to measure success. Next, you've got to have a focused strategy. So this includes all of your assessment around the market and competitive intelligence that then inform your ideal customer profile, target personas, product messaging and differentiation, the pricing and packaging strategy. And then finally, to pull off a successful launch with, you need an effective execution plan. So that's all about product readiness. So both in terms of the product releases themselves, but also ensuring product market fit, acquisition strategy. How are you bringing customers in the door? You know, is this a self-serve, kind of working people through a conversion funnel? Is this a sales assisted sales, inbound and outbound sales model? You need to make sure that you've got sales and success enablement, effective content and collateral. And then customer advocacy is huge, especially when you think beyond just the initial launch, which, by the way, customers, having customer partners in a launch dramatically increases the not just the impact, but also the press, the appetite for press. But then also the cross-sell motion. Once you have customers on board, it's so much easier to tell that story. we are going to focus a little bit on these areas here that I've highlighted. So how market and customer insights can influence refining your target buyer personas, testing and validating your messaging, measuring sales confidence, establishing credibility through great content, and building a bench of customer advocates. So let's start with this first one here, refining your target buyer personas. At Momentive, for each of our top buyer personas, we create what we call persona packs. They're precursor to full-blown persona messaging frameworks that are used as internal overview trainings and cheat sheets about our personas. They span information I've listed here about buyers' responsibilities and challenges and how we solve for those challenges, what may trigger a purchase event, and their then evaluation criteria for selecting vendors. We have a section on the ideal customer profile, to our marketing and sales with who to target, which solutions or use cases to lead with, and of course, customer stories. Now, it can be difficult and time consuming to get in front of enough customers to do the necessary research to refine your personas. Same PMA report showed that almost 1 in 5 product marketers never directly talk to customers, which is a bit mind-boggling to me. But I guess I understand if you do have a UX research team or customer marketing team that are really more the face of those interactions and you're gathering that intel elsewhere. But I also get it, it's time consuming and difficult to get in front of those customers. Ultimately, you do probably want a wide variety of data sources and research to inform your personas. This could be split into qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative research may include interviewing either with customers, closed loss prospects, your own network, internal experts, existing UX or pricing interviews that maybe have already taken place as part of the product development process, sales calls, whether you're shadowing them live or listening to them on a platform like Gong, webinars, events, those kinds of presentations, getting out there, seeing what your target buyers are talking about, presenting about, industry articles. We also love to scour job descriptions to understand roles and responsibilities for different titles. And then there's the quantitative research side, which might include, the classic state of department reports, state of marketing, state of customer success, et cetera, et cetera. Industry reports, market research surveys, of course, sales funnel data, product usage data, anything that's going to give you a nice sound foundation of who's buying, what are they buying, how much are they spending, yada, yada, yada. And so while Qual can give you that really great in-depth contextual information, it's hard to gather that at scale. And then the flip side to that is that Quant won't really provide that why behind the data or that extra context. I do think surveys can be a happy medium here, which is why I want to talk about our usage and attitudes solution. UNAs are most frequently done at B2C companies, actually. I used to work with Procter & Gamble, and they are refreshing their knowledge of their target consumers on a pretty frequent basis. I'm now seeing more and more B2B companies are also doing this type of research on their target buyers at scale. So with UNA studies, you can survey your target buyers using, like, for example, our integrated global panel, which reaches over 130 countries. It includes B2B targeting, B2C targeting, over 200, I think, attributes that we have, but you can also custom screen to find the right people. We typically, when we're doing our research, we'll target full-time, manager plus, business decision makers, some level of influence or authority on purchasing decisions. And so then you can profile those buyer segments by demographic, psychographic, firmographic, behavioral characteristics, really cut and slice and dice just to create those profiles. You can quantify and prioritize their top challenges. So it's, better than having just a list. You can see, okay, what's actually really eating at them. You can uncover insights about the purchasing process, who's involved, who owns the budget, where they seek out information. And then our solution includes a key drivers analysis, which shows which attributes and behaviors lead to outcomes like purchase intent. So We can figure out how, like, what's correlated with some of those key outcomes that you're trying to drive. Really cool. And something that, you might not typically think of when you think of the kind of research that product marketers might do. But here's a really great example with the research done at Kajabi, which is a platform for creators and entrepreneurs. That's what they use to manage their online businesses. It's a great example of product marketing actually doing this kind of research. The situation there was the product had advanced in ways that opened up opportunities to serve new customers. And so the product marketing team at Kajabi was challenged with defining the scope of who they should be targeting. So beyond just creators to possibly entrepreneurs running all types of small businesses. And this would inform the entire funnel from brand campaigns through to the sales funnel and how they target there. They ended up running a UNA as a first project, almost like a foundation setting project to making some of those decisions and then building on that for ongoing research. It gave way to how they structured their brand health tracker, who they targeted for additional research, like name and message testing, and again, like how they structured all the rest of the work that they did as product marketers. Caitlin Roberts, that was the PMM on the team driving a lot of this effort, summed it up as allowing the team at Kajabi to quantify customer problems, understand their context, and bring customers to the table when it comes to decision making, which is huge when developing and refining personas. Okay, so that brings me on to number 2, testing and validating your messaging. I'm going to proclaim that knowing whether our messages are resonating with prospects is one of the biggest challenges we have as product marketers. There are certainly ways to try and tease this out. One way is through implicit data, which is data where we're kind of more making inferences from data sets. So click-through rates, conversion rates, win rates, A/B tests. And then there's explicit data, which is data like where people are telling us directly what they think. So interviews with customers and prospects, feedback from the sales reps, sales calls, message testing, is a great way to do this. The challenge with implicit data is you can never really be 100% certain unless this is very well-structured copy-only experiment that you're running. That you're capturing the impact of messaging itself and not any other confounding factors. And so it also lacks that human context. Explicit data, on the other hand, can be really time consuming to collect, to go through interviews, feedback from reps, all of that, and challenging to synthesize. So we've started using survey-based message testing, of course, because we have our own solutions available to us. We're lucky ducks in that way. In our process, and it's really sped up our time to market considerably. So let me tell you about our message testing solution. It is another one of the purpose-built solutions that we have at Momentive, and it's definitely the one that I use the most frequently in my job as a product marketer. And so with message testing, again, you can survey those target buyers. For us, again, we're typically targeting a broad group of business decision makers. And then what we do is we compare how our messages score across a variety of both default or custom attributes. What you want to make sure you're doing is aligning the attributes you're testing with associations we're trying to drive as a brand, or how you want to be known, or how you want this product to resonate. And then you can quickly understand the differences across buyer segments with our built-in AI-powered insights. And you can then compare your results to over 95 industry benchmarks, including SaaS, which is what we use to benchmark ourselves. And I'm going to share a very fresh project with you. This might be going against some rule somewhere of sharing real data, but whatever, we're going to do it. So just the other week, this was right at the end of June, I ran a headline test for our Momentive homepage. So you can see the homepage design on the left. Admittedly, we are still using the same homepage that we launched with our rebranding announcement on June 9th of last year. So it's been over a year without any changes. Now, this was fine when we launched the new brand. It was talking about our brand values, explaining our logo mark, but the current design isn't really continuing to be that successful for us. It was doing that more so than communicating what we do, how our solutions tangibly offer value. And so we chose 6 headlines to test. You can see them here using our message testing solution. They all corresponded to either a value prop, a category message, or a platform message. And interestingly, leadership was pushing for something that conveyed the category we play in. So on the next slide, I'll share the results with you. All right, so results do come back in a very clean, easy to digest scorecard with messages across the top. So you can see them here. And then metrics along the side. And so you can see we tested things like overall appeal, clarity, brand impression, innovation, and likelihood to learn more, which is what you want someone to do on your homepage. So any guesses on the winning headline? All right, so we had 2 messages that won by a landslide. Both were simpler language relating back to one of our key value props, ease or speed. So the 2 messages were making it easier to know how your customers think and feel, and real insights from real people really fast. And what we're doing now that we have these results is taking the top 2 winning messages to design a new homepage hero components, and then get those 2 into a rotating experiment. So once we test those, we even have the third place message on reserve that we can test later on. Curious if you agree with the results. You can let me know in the chat. Could spark some fun debate. But this was, again, a very fresh example. We just ran this a couple weeks ago, and we're leveraging the results in practice right now as we design those new homepage heroes. So really, really quick way to get feedback and narrow down your ideas. All right, which brings us to number 3, which is all about improving sales and success confidence. So given that product marketers are involved in so many strategic initiatives, it only makes sense that we are tied to just as many success metrics. Here's more data from that PMA report. And as you look through it, not a single metric was reported by more than half of product marketing teams. That's a little crazy when you think about it. All teams everywhere are using all these different kinds of metrics. There's no like one thing we can all agree on, which is, I guess what comes with this role. When I look at these, so many of the metrics are just metrics that we influence, but don't own outright, meaning we don't have full control over the success. I guess maybe you could argue that's the case with asset utilization or sales confidence. So let's talk about sales confidence. Only about 1/3 of product marketing teams are measured against this, but I could argue that this is probably one of the most important metrics I keep track of to measure the direct impact of my team's work. So we run a sales confidence survey. Here is the typical survey flow that we use internally here at Momentive. We send this out about once a quarter to all of our SDRs, BDRs, AEs, CSMs. It's been invaluable really for helping us plan our enablement roadmap. It includes demographics like role, tenure in the role, and we can filter by all of that stuff in analysis. It can even help arm our sales managers like, hey, here's how your team is doing. And then we have confidence metrics across all the different stages of the sales cycle. So from strategy to discovery to pricing, even upsell. And then my team especially cares about things like confidence in pitching our different solutions and competitive differentiation. And then we always give space for open-ended feedback. So actually some great ideas have come from some of the write-ins in the survey. And for all of you, as a little gift, we'll be following up and sending you our sales confidence survey template so you can actually implement this at your organization if you don't have something like this already. One example of a question that we ask is around sales confidence when speaking about our solutions. It's a 5-point scale from not at all confident to very confident. And then when we do the analysis, what we're doing is combining the top 2 box scores. So we add together somewhat confident plus very confident to arrive at a single number that you can track over time. In this case, it's in the green bar. And this would be how it would look in our SurveyMonkey Enterprise platform. And there's a lot of customizations you could do with the analysis, share it. with different stakeholders, which is what we do, enablement, product marketing, sales leadership, all kind of want to look at these results every quarter. But really the magic happens when you start looking at trends over time. So here's a trend we were seeing in confidence and competitive intelligence. PMM and strategy teamed up to create a deep dive competitive intel training, which included overall market landscape and trends with solution by solution, how we stack up and where we win. And it had an overwhelming impact on this metric. Huge jump from, actually, you don't even see the data point here, but this time last year, we were sitting at 3% confident, all the way up to 90%. So huge. And then here's a similar trend for sales strategy and tactics, hovering in the middle ground, but not strong and not improving. What we did was we initiated a cross-functional effort to create a comprehensive sales playbook that spanned all stages of the sales cycle, with all of our templates and tools and best practices all in one place. And it ended up being over 100 pages long in a Google Doc, pretty crazy. Took us several months to create it. And when we did, the reps ate it up. Again, look at this impact. We've since incorporated both of these enablement efforts into our new hire onboarding. We're seeing overall higher confidence metrics with the shorter tenured reps and new hires. It's just been so amazing to pinpoint where the gaps are, fill them, and then quickly see impact. Then brings us to number 4, establishing authority and credibility. So you might be wondering how Insights ties in here. Well, it's all about creating credible content to support your go-to-market strategy. Turns out it's what people want. A whopping 82% of people would rather read an article based on data than the writer's opinion alone. And top brands are already doing this. You're publishing original research reports to build credibility and authority. Here you see a smattering of research from the PMA, of course. I've been using that all session. Salesforce, HubSpot, Twilio, Zendesk, Slack, Snowflake, Amplitude, Zora, LinkedIn, Drift. This is just a key part of these brands' strategy. And a great go-to-market example is with Brex, the fintech company for high-growth companies and startups. They were gearing up for a product launch that they were unveiling at a trade show and wanted to pack a bit more of a punch. They decided to do a market research survey using SurveyMonkey audience, targeting financial professionals responsible for closing the books every month, to get some fundamental stats that corroborated the challenges that their new product solved for. They received insights in just 2 days and created a whole campaign around the data, including the collateral that they physically put in the seats at the presentation at the conference. It's a great example of how research can become integrated into a campaign to drive more credibility around a go-to-market launch. And that brings us to number 5, building a bench of customer advocates and proof points. All right. Let's hear directly from the voice of one of our customers. Time for a little story. Let me know if this sounds familiar. We have a sales team of about 150 people globally. We were getting bombarded with requests for more customer stories and references. So we built a really robust customer marketing program to generate customer content for sales and for our website. But meeting with existing clients, crafting their story, and publishing in the right formats was a huge time suck. And as a result, we had a couple of really good case studies, but they didn't fully represent the growing portfolio of industries and personas that we serve. Ultimately, marketing was constantly lagging behind and needed to catch up. I don't know about you, but this really hits home for me. In 2 years, the business unit I work on at Momentive went from 1 insight solution to 23. We haven't come close to catching up with all the case studies we should have right now, which is luckily, luckily we have a solution called Tech Validate that helps you gather social proof at scale. It's a survey-based solution, but really what makes it unique is the way that this research comes from a third party, which makes for a good customer experience, filling out all the information, as well as the validation you get when you publish what we call tech facts. And so with Tech Validate, you can capture and transform customer feedback into testimonials, product stats, reviews, and more. Arm your sales and marketing teams with customer stories filtered by industry, persona, or product. Quickly identify the customers that you want to go deeper on for case studies, speaking engagements, video, ABM, any other marketing activities. They basically check off what they're willing to participate in. It's awesome. And Gong actually is one of our customers benefiting from the speed at which they can create compelling customer proof points for their sales and marketing teams. So they actually collected hundreds of customer testimonials in just 2 days and are using Salesforce, the Salesforce integration we have, to make them readily available for customer-facing teams. In Sheena's words, the Senior Director of Marketing at Gong, they're able to measure the immeasurable, find the ideal quote, introduce the customer, and win new business through an auto-collected reference that all pays for itself many times over. In my 7 years at Momentive, I've run Tech Validate projects every couple of years, and each time I'm amazed at the customers that come forward willing to share their thoughts. Sometimes the best stories, those money quotes, come from customers that were kind of flying under your radar. So again, huge solution for collecting that customer insight at scale, really tangible way to turn that into action. Okay, so by now you're probably understanding that marketing customer insights are critical for a successful go-to-market strategy, but you might be wondering where you begin. Here are a couple of things you can start doing today to bring more customer and market insights into your process and the way that you work. So the first is assessing the current state of market and customer research at your organization. Who's doing it? Where does it live? What can you leverage that already exists today? Identify 1 to 2 things that you're doing manually that you would benefit from insights at scale. So where could you incorporate surveys or one of the solutions we talked about today into the work that you do? And then just start with one project. Maybe it's personas or messaging or case studies. Start with one, introduce market research and customer surveys, and then just go from there. Build as you go. And then one thing that we've done that's worked really well is document the research process so you can scale it within your team and organization. Of course, our team would be happy to provide a consultation to help get you started, because I know it's not as easy as I make it seem. Well, I've run out of time today. That's a wrap. But I will be able to follow up if you do have any questions. Just reach out. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And my team will be at the PMA Summit in San Francisco. So if you're local to the Bay Area, we may be able to meet up in person. We're also hiring product marketers at Momentive, so definitely check out our careers page. Thank you to the PMA for having me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
and welcome to the Product Marketing Festival. We have some fantastic sessions on the agenda for you today, but before we jump in, I have a very exciting announcement to make. The Product Marketing Awards are back for 2022, and I'm delighted to announce that nominations are now open. We received a whopping 181 new Yeek nominations last year, and this year we want even more PMM pioneers to be recognised. We have 7 top-notch categories for you to get involved in, and we can't wait to shout about the incredible product marketing talent within our community. The categories are Product Marketing Leader of the Year, Product Marketing Team of the Year, Product Marketing MVP of the Year, Product Marketing Newcomer of the Year, Positioning and Messaging Maestro of the Year, Product Launch of the Year, and Top Companies to Work in Product Marketing. Nominations are now open but must close on August 19th. So what are you waiting for? Spread the word, get your nominations in, and celebrate those product marketing superstars that continue to go the extra mile. We'll be sharing a link to the nomination page in the chat throughout the day, so keep a lookout for that. We're also here if you have any questions, so please feel free to reach out via Slack or email. Now, after all the excitement, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for joining us today at the festival. Please make the most of these sessions by asking your questions and sharing your feedback in the comment section of the video. So with that, let's get back to the sessions.
Hi, my name is Daniel Cooperman, and I work in product marketing at Atlassian. I've been in product marketing for well over 15 years, and I've been the first product marketing hire at a company. I've been the only product marketer at a company. I've been part of bigger teams. I've also built my own teams over my career in product marketing. And in the next few minutes, I want to talk to you about getting shit done in product marketing and how to develop good habits to get the most important work done without burning out. Now, when you look at product marketing job descriptions, here's a very good example of what you're going to see search on Google or on LinkedIn. All of those skills that are out there, you need to have knowledge of this, experience with that, communications, slide work, enablement. These are all great, but there is one ability on every hiring manager's list that typically doesn't show up on the job description itself, and it trumps all of the other skills and abilities, which is getting things done. Of no use is your great branding skills or your experience delivering presentations if you can really get the work done. And there's a lot of things getting in the way of people today in just getting stuff done, and burnout is one of the major causes of frustrations and people just like not being able to do things. And you'd feel like we have so many tools today at our disposal. Why is this happening? Research after research has been telling us people are feeling overworked and they're feeling exhausted. It's not even the end of the day, and after the 5th Zoom meeting, you just can't take it anymore. Now, why is that? So let's take a step back and really understand what's going on here. And one thing I did is I sent out a survey at my company to the product marketing team, and I've asked people to be honest and really tell me like what is happening during those meetings. Are you always 100% focused on the meeting? You have everything else shut down? Are you focused, but when there's a notification on Slack or an email pops up, you go and check that out? Are you checking really like notifications and messages every few minutes? Or are you like all the time paying attention to the meeting, but also looking at the messages? Now, take a moment. Think about this. How would you have answered this survey? Well, the way that the team that I work with answered is fairly interesting. And most people, they do realize that they are focused on a meeting, but when there's a notification, they do verge their attention off and they take a look at it. Some people are checking a few times during the meeting, and some brave souls actually said that they are checking messages all the time. So this interruption of your attention for a meeting has a damaging effect in your productivity. And when you add up all of the time, all of the meetings that you have, and the fact that you're actually shifting your attention, that adds up in terms of the fatigue and the frustration that people are feeling. So context switching, right, is almost like having a bunch of TV screens that you have to constantly move over and see what's going on every time. Replace the TV screens with Slack, email, Zoom meetings, Google Docs, etc., and you get the idea. If you're trying to get a presentation done for the meeting tomorrow and suddenly you see the new email that pops up, that is brain power that's being diverted to another task. Even if you're at home and you're working and you're focused, but the doorbell rings, that might also changes your brain and from focusing on one thing and now switching over to another task or another activity that you have to do. On average, actually, takes people about 9.5 minutes, according to some research, to get back into a productive workflow after having to switch between digital apps. And this particular research also talked about how because of people are switching between apps so frequently, most of them are feeling less productive, and also a good percentage of people are feeling fatigued. So switching apps causes fatigue. Another interesting research that talks about the cost of interrupted work also says that because of the interruptions that we're having, and sometimes we're doing to ourselves, right? So if you're in the meeting and you are switching without any notification popping up over to Slack to see what's the latest, or is there any important email, it's also adding to stress, frustration, that feeling that you have, that unsurmountable workload, and also the pressure to get things done faster because you don't have enough time in the day to get things done. Now, how do we manage all of this? Well, time management has been around for decades, right? And if you look back at a couple hundred years ago on Benjamin Franklin in 1791, actually published in his autobiography, and he shared with the world his own philosophy about this, and he talked about time management, and this is an example of how he views his time and how he makes himself productive, which was by blocking off chunks of time, right? Most recently, we also had Stephen Covey that came out with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People back in the 80s and was tremendously successful because he was giving us some really good processes for how to think about priorities in our lives and in our work environment. And one of the interesting things that came out of that work that he did was the priority matrix that you see here on the screen, which really forces you to think, are you spending more of your time on things that are not urgent and not important, like you're wasting your time, or you're spending your time on things that are very important, but they are not urgent? So how are you looking? How are you really spending your time? So if you take a look at this quadrant, and now you look at your calendar, and you start plotting things, how much time are you spending in each of those quadrants, that will also give you a good indication of how effective you are in terms of managing your priorities. Now, fast forward now to the 90s, right? And now we have David Allen Getting Things Done method, which I'm a really big fan. I've used it for years. And David Allen now helped us rethink work intake and how we prioritize things. And he talked about how we need to capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage with information in a way that's going to take it out of your head into a system so you can actually be productive. And more recently, back in 2019, I believe, Cal Newport came up with Deep Work, which is a tremendously good book. I highly recommend it. And he's also talking about also borrowing from some of the other previous work and adding up to that, looking at how you're capturing and organizing information around your life, professional and personal, but also thinking about planning in terms of how you do quarterly planning, how you're planning your week, and how you plan for your day to be productive. Now, let me also pause here for a minute and say I'm not doing justice for any of those authors by just simplifying their work in those key bullet points. And I do recommend that you go back and you read their books, and you're going to see. So what I want to share with you is what has worked for me in terms of looking at work and prioritizing things. And my intent is also not to tell you that one system is better than other, but there are different ways to think about it. You're going to have to try a few different things to see what works for you. Now, what I'm going to show you is how I've used all of those different methods into my professional life as a product marketer to get things done. The first thing that I'm going to tell you is breaking down work. So that's just good project management principle in general, and also part of what like agile software development has been telling us now for years, which is you got to think about what is the smallest unit of work that you can manage. And let's take like something that typical product marketing does. So slide presentations, right? We live and breathe slide presentations every day. So when we look at the final outcome, which is the final slide deck, to get to that, right, of course, you're going to have to first maybe create an outline, and then you do a rough draft maybe. There's a first version for review. You share with people, you get comments, so there's this process of creating, refining, everything until you have the final deck that you can either publish or present. Now, have you ever found yourself blocking time, let's say a couple hours, to work on something, only to notice that, well, oh my God, time has gone by and I haven't really made a dent? Well, that's because you failed to properly break down the work. So the first step in any way of thinking about work is break it down into the most atomic piece that you can, like the most manageable, smallest size, so that you can start like thinking about what you need to do to get that done and go to the next step. I'll share something with you as well, which is prioritizing work. And what I did before, right, is something that looks exactly what you have here on the screen, which is a typical work week that I had before. I would start breaking things down into manageable pieces of work, work items, and I'll add all of those to a big to-do list. And then I would block chunks of called focus time. And I had several like project-specific meetings throughout the week, one-on-ones with my team, company this, town halls, trainings, etc. I tried to block lunch sometimes, and sometimes it was successful. But then when I got to the focus time, I would then go to the to-do list, right, that I had created and start working on one item after the other. And the problem with this is it gives you an impression of progress, because you go through your to-do list and during your focus time, you're marking things off one by one, but it's just an impression, right? Because the rest of my week was really overrun with meetings, and in a lot of cases, and I don't know if that's the same way in your company or not, but when people looked at my calendar and they saw focus time, meetings started getting blocked over focus time, because they think, well, you have 2 hours of focus time. It's okay if I take 15 minutes of that or 30 minutes for us to actually do some work or have a meeting. So the focus time always ended up being shrunk, and things start getting overrun by meetings after meetings. So my point here is you got to rethink the way you're doing your to-do lists. And it can't just be a list of items. And it can also, I think, just be a list of items that you then prioritize when you have time to work on it. What you actually have to do first is to break it down, of course, into chunks of work, like the most atomic, the smallest work item that you can think of. And then you have to add a specific time frame. Like how long do you think it's going to take you to do, let's say, the outline and the draft and on and on and on and on. And you can see that just by doing that by itself, maybe a presentation that you thought might take a couple hours, well, when you add up all of those hours and the time that you have, it's more than that, right? And this also forces you to think about the work that you need to do and the time that you need to block to complete that. And you do the same thing with every single item on your list. Some items are already in atomic form, right? Like read a report or submit an expense report. It might just take 15 or 30 minutes, but you got to count for that time and you got to break it down. Then the next step on this is what's called time boxing. Again, this is nothing new. Benjamin Franklin was doing that way back in the day, but that's the forcing function for you to get things done. You put all of those action items in specific places in your calendar along the week. So the outline for your presentation might be done on Monday morning, and the first draft you want to start working on that maybe in that afternoon or on Tuesday. And the important thing is just to get that stuff in your calendar. Now, why not just block, let's say, more focus time and go through the list? Well, there are a couple problems. Like, as I said, people end up scheduling things on top of your focus time. So it happens, even if you tell them not to. But also, when you get to that focus time on your calendar, you don't want to spend brain cycles just going through a huge to-do list and having to decide, oh, what do I do now? That by itself already takes brain power away from completing a task. You may also look at the list and decide, you know what, I'm not in the mood for item number 1, although it's very important. Let me jump into item number 5 because I think this is going to be easier. I'm in a creative mood right now. Well, it just doesn't work. You start skipping stuff and you end up not having enough time. And by having those things as meetings in your calendar, like you see here on the screen. So when you do away with focus time, I'm now blocking time for creating a presentation, for lunch, for updating the battle card, for reviewing the report. It's going to force you to just not to think about what you need to do. It's just like, oh, 8:30, 11:30, I need to create a presentation. Let's get into that. 12:30, oh, now I need to do what? Update a competitive battle card. Okay, let's get into that. But hold on, Daniel, you may say. Now, what if I am working on something and instead of, for example, that presentation outline taking 30 minutes that I allocated, it ends up taking 2 hours? Well, as the task that you're working on takes longer to complete, you have one of 2 things that you can do, right? You can either continue working on it, unless you have like a hard stop because there's a meeting or something else coming up. Continue working on that. You can definitely eat up on the next task if you feel like you have to complete that, and then you have to reshuffle things at the end of the day, or you can allocate more time for it for the next day. So the point of this is not to have a rigid system that if I don't complete in 30 minutes, I'm screwed. No, the point of this is to start helping you organize your time so you can really have the power to focus your brain on that specific task. And you have to adjust the system so that it works for you and it works with you. And we're going to talk about what happens also in a couple of slides about reviewing your day and how do you organize things if they don't go according to plan. I think the key element here is really like if you are used to just blocking like focus time, you might realize that may not work very well to just get things done because of people blocking stuff over, tasks taking longer to complete, and the brain power that it takes for you. So my suggestion is to blow up, do away with just those focus times, and let's start like time boxing and blocking your calendar for very specific things. Now, another important thing here to think about is what Cal Newport calls a capture system. David Allen also has a similar thing for this. And what that means is you have to have a way to capture information, and it could be like pen and paper, Evernote, Confluence, Trello, whatever electronic system that you want, or manual system. For example, I happen to use Microsoft OneNote because I like how you can organize all your notes in tabs, much like a real binder. And what you do is during all of the meetings that you have throughout the day, you take notes and you pay special attention to action items and things you need to follow up on. So the report that Mary said she was working on and it was going to share with you after the meeting, well, make a note. You need to follow up with her on that. Your boss asked you to draft a proposal and share by Thursday. Well, make a note. So the end result is a series of notes and action items. All of the emails you get or Slack message, you do the same, right? So you read, decide what needs to get done, and add to your note-taking system. Now, as you're adding stuff to your notebook or Evernote or OneNote, whatever, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you gotta go through that and review all of those key actions and the to-dos and identify how important they are, how long each of them is going to take, and then review your calendar and allocate time in your calendar. So this is a habit you gotta have to have. So at the end of the day, to review all of your notes, all of your action items, and start rethinking about your priorities for the rest of the week or for the next week. Here's a couple examples, right? Like that I mentioned. Trello is a great tool because it allows you to have columns on next actions, things you're waiting for, or by projects even. This is a screenshot of my organization in OneNote where I create like different tabs for meetings and talks with sales, one-on-ones, etc., and I have even like sub tabs within those tabs so I can better organize myself. And at the end of the day, I go through it and I see exactly what needs to get done. Now, all of this scheduling and note-taking, that can be a lot. So that's why there's another very important concept, something else that's added to the system, right? And this is something that I'm taking from Carl Newport that he popularized in the Deep Work book. And he calls this a daily shutdown routine. And I mark it on my calendar for the last 30 minutes of my day. And that's when I look at my notes from the meetings, I look at my calendar, see what was I able to get done, what got pushed, right? Because sometimes you're working on something that takes longer. What had to be reshuffled because of reprioritization during the day, because things happen, right? Like that's life. And then I review my schedule for the rest of the week. And then you look at, okay, action items that you took notes of during the day, what got pushed and everything, reshuffle your calendar for the rest of the week so you can reprioritize things. So you may have to move some things around. So let's now take a closer look at what that looks like and some specific examples, right? So the question is then, how much is too much, right, in terms of time boxing? So you could have your entire calendar, let's say the screen here on the left, fully blocked with every single thing you need to do. I block 2 hours for the slide presentation, 30 minutes for this. I have a meeting here, like fully booked. Or should you have some free time for other people, right? So here's the thing. We first talked about how context switching is bad. And the other problem is if you're working on a very, very demanding task, something that takes a lot of brain power, you can't really keep doing it for more than like 4 hours at a time. And that's scientifically proven because your mind starts wondering. If I need to crunch some, let's say, market analysis data, it won't do me good to block an entire day to do that, because after a few hours, I'm going to start losing steam. Now, the other problem is if I fill my entire day with different kind of work, that is also sapping my energy because I'm going to be switching every 30 minutes, like from one task to another, and it's also going to deplete. So there needs to be a balance. Now, as I schedule my work, I try to account for when I need to have meetings, which can serve as a good buffer, right? For example, between brain-intensive tasks. And sometimes I leave time empty on purpose so that someone else can add a meeting to the day because, life, like it happens. What I've also been doing, which I highly recommend, is to schedule breaks. And when I say schedule breaks, it's not to leave time in between, free time in between meetings, but schedule a break, like a meeting invite. I'm going to be like walking around the block. Like what I call my break is refresh time, when I need to get up from the desk, walk around the block, or go grab a coffee, or just look outside the window and really like refresh my brain. And you gotta schedule time for mental breaks, for lunch, for whatever works for you. So that's something to keep in mind. You gotta leave some time, and you also gotta rethink how you're blocking and not go super crazy, right? On blocking every single 30-minute increment on your calendar, but you have to see what's going to work for you. Different types of tasks that require different type of brain power. So you may also start thinking about how you want to allocate, for example, your one-on-ones, and you may want to do them all in one day so that you have that mindset of doing it, or presentation, or if it's data crunching, or whatever that is, so that you start like seeing what works best for you. Another key point of this is there's times in the day where you're going to be more, your brain's going to be better for data tasks or creative tasks. So you're also going to have to see what works well for you. But again, like the key point here is start allocating tasks. So don't overschedule. Leave some time for ad hoc meeting requests, but do block time also for what? This is another important point. Stop checking email, stop checking Slack if you're doing something else. So if I'm working on that presentation, I want to shut off Slack, I want to shut off email, and I want to work on that for the next 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever time I have blocked. And then I want to have some time blocked also to check that. So I have on my calendar specific times in the day when I say catch up on communication or catch up on messages. Nothing is going to explode, right, if you don't check Slack at that same very specific time. You gotta block time just to focus on the work. One tip I'll give you, it's there's an app that I've been working, that I've been testing, and I find it fantastic because all of this time of looking at your to-do list and saying, should I do that on Tuesday or should I do that on Thursday? Well, there's this app called Reclaim.ai that I highly recommend. I think is fantastic, which it helps to do exactly this. You add to the app all of your action items, how much time you need, how you want to block your time. So if I have, let's say, a presentation that I know is going to take 2 hours and a half or 4 hours to do, I can tell the app to block, let's say, 45-minute blocks across my calendar, and it will automatically schedule the time for when I don't have meetings. And it then is going to also protect my time, and it has different settings that allows you to be more protective or less protective of the time. So it does help you in terms of speeding things up and not having to think too much about moving things around your calendar. So highly recommend the app. It's super good. Another question that comes up is, well, how do I resolve meeting requests over time block for work, right? So one issue you're going to find is that people will still send you meeting invites on top of stuff that you had planned on doing. Now, that's okay. You know, again, life, it happens. So you have two things that can happen, right? One is you need to check whether the time that you had blocked for that particular task really needs to happen during that specific day and time. So for example, if I have to deliver a report tomorrow and I had blocked, let's say 2 p.m. today to do it, if a meeting shows up at that same time, I would decline the meeting, right? Or I will ask for the meeting organizer, hey, can you move it? Like, this is the only time I have to finish this, and I really need to finish this. And this may surprise you if you ask the meeting organizer to move a meeting to another day or time. In many cases, they will do it. Now, of course, if there are 15 other people in that meeting, it may not be possible to move. But then, if there are 15 other people in the meeting, do you really need to be there, or can you just catch the recording, ask them to record the meeting for you? Now, another question that comes up is, okay, why do you need to block time, or do I need to block time for things such as read a report or check email? Well, I have done this, like work catch-up time blocks, which for me is code to check Slack and check email. And that's because what people don't realize is that the amount of time in a day that you have to actually do work is reduced, right? Because of all of the other things you need to do, like reading reports, checking email, checking messages, talking to people. So the best you can do with your sanity and to your sanity is to make sure that you block time for those things. So yeah, I'm not going to reply to emails or Slack messages ASAP. I'm going to be doing something else, but in an hour, people know that I might have time to do that. So just think about how you want to organize. The other important thing is you're organizing your day, your time, is how much of your time is spent on each of those quadrants that we talked about. Always keep that in mind. If you start seeing yourself spending too much time in meetings that are not amounting to anything, you may want to reshuffle things. The other part of this that I think is interesting is when you look at the time that you have, right? On the left side here of the screen, you can see key projects, routine work, growth and development, administrative work. And this is the way that I tell my team to think about things. And why is that? Well, a lot of research, and this is an example from Zapier, they talk about how 18% of knowledge workers are spending less than 1 hour a day on core job functions. So this is mind-blowing. You are hired as a product marketer to do product marketing. If you're not doing your work and you're spending only 18%, I'm sorry, but like, why were you hired, right? 81% spend less than 3 hours a day of creative work. Again, this is mind-boggling. And if you're spending 5 hours checking messages, apps per day, what are you doing during those 5 hours? Like, so the way that I tell my team to think about it is on the left side, about 50% of your time at least should be spent on key projects. So if you look back on your calendar, you should have time blocked to spend on key projects. Then you have about 30% or so on routine work, right? Things that pop up, people have questions. Growth and development, 5 to 10% of your time on growth and development. Are you reading? Are you attending training sessions? And there's always administrative work that should not be more than, let's say, 5% of your time. Expense reports, talking to people about specific things, HR. It doesn't matter. Like, there's administrative work that you need to do. I know that. But if you're not spending your time, again, let's go back to the quadrants there, which is a similar thing that I'm trying to instill right on the teams, is how much time I'm really spending on projects. And you cannot be on that 18% of work spending less than 1 hour on your core job function. So let me give you a tip here. When you're in the Zoom meeting and you feel like the meeting is not amounting to anything, here's some things that you can do. Tell people, sorry, I have to jump to another call. Bang, drop it. Oh, sorry, I need to drop. I'll catch a recording later. Drop the call. Or, oops, my internet connection is stable. I'm sorry, I'm up. Drop the call. Now, I'm being facetious here, right? Of course, jokes aside, part of your job is also to understand priorities and if your time is being well used. If you're on a call and the call is not being effective, instead of switching, again, like why people are switching to Slack and to email during the Zoom calls, remember that first poll I showed you, is because they don't feel the meetings is important, that they don't feel like they have anything to say in the meeting. So instead of going for multitasking, context switching, like you have a meeting, someone is talking to you, and you're now checking Slack or doing some work, that is not good. Your brain is divided. Drop the meeting and go to the work. Now, final words of wisdom here. So this system is not foolproof, right? And you have really to change the way that you take notes, that you prioritize tasks, that you use time boxing, and the way that you're leveraging your calendar. You also have to get better at saying no. Just say no to people when they invite you to meetings and you simply don't have the time. So one other advantage of this method that I just showed you is that as you get better at listing your work and assigning durations, you can have a very honest conversation with your boss to see, if you see that you simply cannot find time enough in the week to get things done. So it becomes a much easier conversation if you show the list of work items that you have, how much time that you need in the week to get them done, versus how much time that you actually have available in the week because of all of the meetings or all of the other work that you're being assigned to. And people complain all the time, I don't have enough time in the day to get the work done. But if you actually show the evidence, your manager will not only thank you, but they will help you find the time to by prioritizing other things, deprioritizing, or they will have to ask for more resources to help you out. So part of managing burnout is organizing your work so that it doesn't cause you stress. And this means less context switching, more focus during your meetings, like close email, close Slack, better time boxing, and the willingness to say no to things. And yes, also blocking time for breaks in the day so that you can recharge. Make it a habit. It's not going to work the first time. It took me a while to balance things out and understand what works and doesn't work. Sometimes I slip, and then I have to think back on why the day was not productive. I didn't time box. I didn't say no to things. So I hope you got some ideas. from my presentation that you can try tomorrow. And I'm really curious about what works and what doesn't work for you. Also, if you're interested in doing more reading on your own, I highly recommend those books. So Deep Work by Cal Newport, Getting Things Done by David Allen, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and there's a bunch more. So take a look at it, but remember, use what worked for you. Just make it a habit, say no to things, and let's do great work. You can find me online, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I really appreciate you spending the time today to watch my presentation. Thank you so much.